Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hadn't intended to do this originally, but as those of you who will have seen my previous video will know, my camera cut out at an unfortunately rather dramatic moment in my recreation of the famous Alabama-Kearsarge duel. And a slight tragedy for me is I did not notice for a while and carried on playing. And then stupidly packed the game up before checking the footage. So there I go, paying for my error there. So what I have done, because thankfully the simplicity of iron and oak makes this quite an easy business, I have recreated the moment when the camera died, and I'm just going to pick up the game from there. Now, I don't know whether I'll be able to fight this to a conclusion, but I'll do my best. And if I'm not able to, I'll just try and offer some insight as to how the fight would have gone. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it looks like it's going to be a clear-cut win for the Alabama because so far she has had everything her own way. And it seems no matter what the Kearsarge tries to do, the dice gods just don't seem to be with her today. So before I get going, just a bit of housekeeping. Now, I'd already mentioned in the description to the previous video that I was mistaken about the shield markers. The maximum they can go up to is actually -4. You'd have thought the clue would have been in the presence of counters that went up to -3 and -4, but it's Andrew, speak slowly. So I spotted that. The other thing I had neglected to do, subconsciously favouring the Confederates as I seem to have been doing, when they double charged their guns for that last broadside against the Kearsarge, I forgot to roll the test to see whether they damaged their own weapons, because of course double charging can come with a penalty. So the way this works is the Confederates, because they played the card, will make the challenge roll of a 10 and 8-sided dice, and the Union will make the response roll. If the Confederates roll higher, their guns are not harmed by the double charging, but if by some mischance for them the Union rolls higher, then from now on until they can repair the damage, Alabama will be firing at yet another penalty. So before I do anything else, let's see how how their double charging test would have gone. It's all different dice, so I'll roll them all together. No, unfortunately for the Union, the Confederate guns, despite the double charging, are still in perfect working order. So I'm going to go straight to the point at which I left, except before that, I will just bring Kearsarge's card up to remind you of the state she's in. So I've corrected my earlier error. Her protective, I'll call it her hull integrity damage is up to -3, which is correct. The other clarification I have to make is with her ram. Now, I said in the previous video that she couldn't conduct ram attacks because of that damage. That is not strictly true. However, it's true in real terms because there's nothing in the rules that stops you making a ram attack with a damaged ram. But a ship like the Kearsarge, which has a very weak ramming rating because she's not designed for that kind of attack, suffers such a high penalty. It's a basic of -5 plus other modifiers because of the type of ship she is, that basically your modifiers are running well into negative numbers before you even make the ramming attack. So with that damage to her prow, it is simply not worth the Kearsarge even trying. So I'll leave it at that, but it is the Kearsarge's turn, and she's hopefully going to try and get some payback. Now, if you recall, she really wanted to try and cross the Alabama's T, which is a very sensible maneuver to make. And to that end, she had attempted to play a quick maneuver card to boost her chances of doing it. Unfortunately, the Confederates had cancelled that with a slow maneuver card that they happened to have in hand. So the poor old Kearsarge, with her existing damage, is going to roll a 10-sided dice and a 4-sided dice, which the Confederates will be countering with It's within the same grid box, so the Confederates will be countering with an 8-sided dice and a 4-sided dice. So despite everything, the Union has a fair chance of pulling this one off. Let's see how they do. Because crossing the T of the enemy ship might actually achieve something and may actually help them to level this contest a bit. So they make their roll and they get a 10, which is great news because the Confederates needn't even bother. The highest they can do to counter that is an 8. So the Kearsarge has crossed the Alabama's T. And how you represent this on the grid, I'll put them back in a minute, but just to show you the counters up close, you basically place the ship that's crossing the T athwart the ship who's about to be victimized. And it's important to declare whether you're doing it across their bow, because that can have implications for bow fire and ramming, or across their stern. Now, very sensibly, just in case Alabama's entertaining any weird ideas of crashing into them, the Kearsarge is going to cross her stern. So I'm going to place them butted up like that. No terrible puns intended there. And the Kearsarge is now going to give her a broadside because they've been waiting for this moment and they're itching for some payback. So they've got rapid fire and they also have double charge. So taking a leaf out of the Confederate playbook, they're going to double charge their guns as well, especially as this particular double charge card has a slightly lower chance of resulting in a gun failure than the ones the Confederates use. Now that's another nice wrinkle that I like. Nothing is ever quite the same in this game. The odds can vary and luck is now with the Union, so they're going to double charge their guns. Looking glumly at their hand, there's not much, well, there's nothing the Confederates can do to interfere with that. So, rubbing their hands with glee, the Kearsarge will open fire. Oh dear, that's a terrible roll. Their highest roll was a 2. Okay, right, let's see what they do. And they hit the Alabama amid... oh, wait. Now, because they're firing across her stern aspect, you just have to correct it. See, the game doesn't dumbly assume that you hit the side when you're crossing the T. So it's location 5 they got. So I'll check this table. And because they are stern on... Oh no, it's unchanged. Okay. Right, it's still considered a hit amidships. Well, perhaps the shots simply passed round and didn't quite get the Alabama's stern, but never mind, it's still a good solid hit on the ship, which is what they wanted. The only problem they have is the strength of that attack. So they got a base value of 2, and working my way down the table, it's short range, so it's up to 4. They have a crack crew, which brings it to 5. Oh yes, and I mustn't forget they were double charging their guns, so at close range, that actually brings it up to 9. That's not a bad value. So the Alabama's amidships, pretty much like the rest of her hull, is an 8-sided dice for defense. So they're going to hope they roll high, because that might just cancel any damage out. They get a 5. So it's exceeding, but it doesn't double. Bad luck for the Union. If the Alabama had been damaged there before, it would have penetrated. But even though they'd set themselves up with an optimum firing position, it just did not work out for them this time. And now they've got to see if anything goes wrong with their guns. To be honest, if I were them, I'd be feeling like packing up and going home. It's really not working out today. So what is... luckily for them, the Confederates roll a 2, so nothing actually goes wrong with their guns from the double charging. But that is a very depressing result for the poor Kearsarge. She set herself up beautifully, but it didn't happen. She's not going to change any of her cards because there's no particular reason to at the moment, and she'll probably find a use for the quick maneuver and the rapid fire. So back to the Alabama. She's in a bit of a fix now. There's no guarantee the Kearsarge will stay across her stern because the ship has to roll to maintain that position every turn, and because she has no damage, the Alabama's a bit more maneuverable. However, she does not want to stay there this turn because as long as the Kearsarge is there, the Alabama cannot shoot at her because, again, another quick reminder, she has no stern or bow firing arc, so she really wants to bring Kearsarge back within her broadside aspect and finish the job. So what she wants to do, you cannot attempt to cross the T when the ship you're trying to do it to is already crossing yours. So the best she can do is play a maneuver 0. So that means she wants to remain within this grid, but she just wants to shake the Union warship off her stern. And that's what she's going to attempt to do. So her maneuverability is still 10-sided dice with 6-sided dice. And in order to counter it, the Union rolls an 8-sider and a 4-sider. So I can roll them all together on account of the different colours. Let's see who's lucky. Oh, the Confederates win by a country mile. Okay. Brave attempt by the Kearsarge, but she's been shaken off already. And the Alabama's now lining up to give her some return fire. Of course, the rebels are probably quite conscious of how lucky they've been so far. So it's in their interest to end this before their luck changes. And rapid fire is a really good card, but they're thinking they might hold on to that. Maybe feeding the ship a face full of grape shot is going to be the way forward. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to load the guns with grape this time, see if they can inflict some anti-personnel casualties. None of the Union cards can interfere with it. So they are at short range, and it only affects crew and the ship's stack. Now, any stack hits would be bad because it would slow the Kearsarge down even more. So let's see how it goes. The Confederates are preparing to fire. They've got their 8-sided dice. They've got their defective ammo dice, and they've got their location dice. Now that is not a bad roll at all. So they get a 6. Let's tot up their various modifiers. It's short range, so the 6 becomes an 8. Crack crew, so it becomes a 9. And I think that's it, actually, yeah. So it's a 9, and they've hit the Kearsarge in location 5, which is amidships again. So the Kearsarge has to hope she doesn't suffer any damage. And she gets a 3. Oh, no. Okay. So the Confederates have got exactly what they wanted. They have a triple result. So the Kearsarge doesn't suffer the hull hits, as per the grape shot cards. Nor does it suffer the shields or the critical hits, luckily. However, they do suffer crew casualties. And looking at the card, actual hits scored as crew hits are up to half the target's remaining crew factors. Apply a smokestack critical hit if the location equals 3 to 6. Now that did, so up to half the Kearsarge's crew factors. And that's rounding down usually. So However, the Kearsarge has an even number of crew, so bear with me while I dig out the crew casualty counters. So in that one awful broadside, half of Kearsarge's crew are dead or wounded. They still have enough to keep the ship fighting effectively, but only just. It's really not going to be very good for them from this point on, and they can't afford more losses than that. Worse, they've also suffered a smokestack critical hit, which cannot be repaired, so that's not going to do them any favours. Now, a smokestack critical hit, when you receive those, what it does is it, let me just check the cheat sheet, there we go. It's -2 dice roll modifiers to all your subsequent maneuver rolls. And this applies to whether you're not just normal maneuvering, but also if you're attempting to ram them or if you're attempting to evade across the T. So it's not looking good. Basically, every time the Kearsarge attempts a maneuver, she's going to suffer a -2 penalty. And as I say, that's not repairable. So, it's not, basically she's having a rubbish afternoon of this. The Confederates, of course, are thrilled and are going to keep their hand as it currently stands because they're looking forward to following it up with some rapid fire. Now, meanwhile, poor old Kearsarge, what can she do except... I think the only thing they can sensibly do if they want to stay in this fight is try their best to cross the Alabama's T again. So they're going to bravely attempt that despite the terrible battering they've been getting. And they are going to play their quick maneuver card, their last one, because they really need to do this. They really need to offset it. But much to their despair, the Confederates have a slow maneuver card, another one. So once again, they find themselves stymied. Poor Kearsarge. But nonetheless, she's going to gamely go for it. So D10 and D4. And the Confederates will counter with a D8 and a D4. So let's see how it goes. Oh dear. They rolled 2 3s. That's not brilliant. With the -2 penalty for the stack damage. In fact, actually, you can see it all on the summary there. It's not good, really. No, they have a 1. So the Confederates actually need not even bother rolling because the Kearsarge would have had to have beaten the response roll, which she can't do with a total of 1. So the maneuver fails, but she can still fire, so it's not over yet. Somewhat desperately, the Kearsarge plays the only bonus she has left, and they are just going to go for rapid fire. So they take 2 shots in a row. The second shot automatically hits the same location the first one did. So I must say this, good luck, Kearsarge. You deserve a change in fortune after the way this has all been going. So first shot crashes out. I mean, they roll high on the location dice, but not so well on the gunnery dice. So they've hit location 8, which is Alabama's waterline. And so following the modifiers chart, they've got their higher total was 4. Goes up to 6 because of the short range. Sorry, I'll show you guys the chart. Unless you're getting a bit sick of seeing this. Up to 7 because they're a crack crew. Crew casualties are not yet high enough to affect the gunnery, amazingly. and there's no smoke yet. There will be after this firing. So their total is 7. That's not bad. It's enough to make Alabama worried. Oh no, the Confederates roll an 8. Unbelievable. So the first shots hit, but they're ineffective. But the Union ship rapidly sends in another volley. And that's a 3. Oh dear. That's not good at all. So 5, 6. Oh dear, after all that, that's a total of a mere total of 6. But Kearsarge's fortune has finally changed. The Confederate defensive roll was 1. So finally, just as some of them were about to start nicknaming the Alabama Old Ironsides, she finally shows she's human after all. Well, not human, but you know what I mean. So they tripled it. Well done, USS Kearsarge. So Alabama immediately takes 2 hits and takes shield damage along the waterline to the tune of -2. And actually, because it's waterline damage, it's increased to 3. So while the Alabama is nowhere near as badly hurt as the Kearsarge, it has slightly wiped the smug look off her face. And just to add a final insult, because of that level of damage, the Confederates have to roll for a critical hit. Or more accurately, I think the Union does. So it's a waterline hit amidships. And it's a total of 5. Ooh, how weirdly symmetrical. So the Alabama suffers a hit to her bow, or specifically her ability to ram things. Interesting how they're both ending up in very much the same state there. So that can go on Alabama's card. That will teach her a lesson. Not one she's intending to learn, because she has her own rapid fire card, and no doubt next turn she's going to use it. The only final effect of the rapid fire card is that the Union ship is now wreathed in light smoke, and that's going to affect future gunnery rolls until it clears, both gunfire emanating from the Kearsarge and also gunfire targeted at the Kearsarge. So that wasn't too bad a turn. I mean, her luck has still been abysmal, but at least the Kearsarge has finally managed to hurt her opponent, which is an improvement. Now, in terms of getting more options back, she's got 2 strike cards, which, given that there's only 1 enemy ship, she won't need both. So she's going to get rid of the 1 and replace it from the deck, hoping that it's something good. Oh, that's actually pretty useless, the spring anchors, because this scenario is being fought in deep water. Too deep for anchoring at any rate, so drat. Swap out a useless card, get a useless card. But never mind, I think that turn could have gone worse for the Union, and it didn't, so it's not looking too bad. Back to the Alabama. She's been paying close attention to what the Kearsarge has been doing, and is a tiny bit more wary now that she's actually been struck and damaged. So she is going to attempt to cross the Kearsarge's stern as well. Might as well join in this fun game of trying to cross the T. No one seems inclined to try and sail away and break contact yet. So the Alabama will set her orders to cross the T. At the moment, her damage is not affecting her maneuverability, although it's perilously close to doing so. So that's Alabama's maneuverability, and that's the Union counter. She does it. What an adroit ship. So the Alabama has now reversed the earlier situation and placed herself across Kearsarge's T. And just to be really, really horrible, they're going to go to rapid fire as well. So loading up their guns, hoping that their defective ammo doesn't play up. She takes her first shot. No problems with defective ammo, but problems with a really horrible dice roll. So they hit location 8, which once again is poor old Kearsarge's waterline. Ouch. Thankfully, they only rolled the 1, otherwise Kearsarge would be in a lot of trouble now. Although still, looking at the modifiers, it's gone up to 3, 4... back down to 3 for the light smoke. So there's a good chance Kearsarge may survive this. The Union must remember to apply a -3 modifier to their save, though, because of the damage that area's already suffered. Oh, and they roll a 2. Oh dear. Okay. So that takes them way down into negative numbers, which means that it's effectively a 0. So the Alabama's first shots have unfortunately taken the shielding or the structural integrity loss down to its maximum possible. The poor old Kearsarge suffers another 2, actually another 3 hits because it's a waterline hit. And gets another critical hit. I have a horrible feeling she's on her way out. There must be an awful lot of water pouring into that ship now. And just to make matters worse for the Union crew, we'll do their critical hit first. 7. Speed loss. Okay. That is not good news. Now, the specifics of a speed loss, it's simply that she's now got a, I think it's a -2 modifier to her maneuvering. Yeah, it's a -2. In fact, I'll mark it with the counter. Sorry, I was wrong. The first speed hit is a -1. If she suffers a subsequent speed loss, it becomes a -2. So I'll just mark poor old Kearsarge with that. This damage too cannot be repaired. It's a permanent effect. So, oh dear. So they've had their speed damage, but the pain is not over because that was rapid fire. So the Confederates are going to hit them at the waterline again. Oof. No defective ammo, and this time it's a 6. Oh, blimey. So 8 because of the range, 9 because they're a crack crew. Back down to 8 because of the light smoke. So it's not too horrible, but it's horrible enough. The Union can't actually pass that. All they can hope is that it's as high, they roll as high as possible. Oh no! And they got a 1. Ow. Okay, so that is another terrible, terrible broadside. Which, nope, I need to look at the right one. Which crunches into the poor old Kearsarge, adding another 3 hits. That actually takes her above her damage threshold. So poor old Kearsarge could only absorb 11 hits in total. So that final terrible avalanche of fire from the Alabama has basically breached her hull in one place too many now, and she is beginning to founder. So what we've had happen in this scenario is the events of June 1864, but completely in reverse. So the Alabama took some hits from the Kearsarge, but nothing of any great consequence. But her own shooting was absolutely superb and completely took apart her Union opposite number. So the state of the two ships at the moment the battle was won was that. And as you can see from all those counters, poor Kearsarge had it far, far worse than the Alabama did. So a very dramatic, if one-sided, recreation of one of the most famous naval battles of the Civil War, with a very different outcome. But I do like this game for that reason. It is still a plausible outcome. The Kearsarge had a slightly heavier armament than the Alabama, but in terms of what they were, the two ships were on a remarkably equal footing. So I can see that outcome as being quite a plausible one. And now I've played this scenario 3 times in the past, and every outcome has been different. I've even had the historical one happen. So it's nice to see that within a believable framework, the game generates this kind of a result. But I suppose an exciting and unpredictable result too. But I shall leave it there because as the poor old Kearsarge settles and the battered but triumphant Alabama puts out into the Atlantic to go on another raiding spree, or perhaps to try to get home. You never know. She's now chalked up her second Union warship. First it was the Hatteras and now the Kearsarge. And so her combat record is still unblemished. So yes, that puts pay to that, and the Union Navy must once more go on the hunt to try and run her to ground. But I will just say thank you for watching this video and thank you for following this series. I hope you found it interesting and enjoyable, and I hope it's piqued your interest in a game that I have a lot of regard for. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and I'll go into that in my final thoughts in more detail. But as always, I really appreciate having you guys along, and for all of you taking the time to tune in and watch this. As always, your company is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for all the comments that this game has attracted already. I will get back to you guys as soon as possible. I really appreciate the feedback and the exchange. But as ever, thank you again for watching, and I really look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care until then. Bye now.